Well, joining me live is Senior Analyst Dr Malcolm Davis from the Australian Strategic Policy Institute. Dr Malcolm Davis, thank you as always for joining us. So how significant is this deployment?
Well, essentially what the US is doing is increasing its naval and air capabilities in the region in a fairly hurried fashion, which does suggest that their intelligence is suggesting that an Iranian response is imminent. The goal of the US deployment will be to defend Israel against Iranian ballistic and cruise missiles, as happened in April. But I think the key thing here is that in this instance, the Iranian attack will be much larger and much more of a multi-axis attack coming from multiple directions simultaneously. So it'll be much more difficult for the Americans and the Israelis to defend against.
It's considered the most dangerous time for the Middle East since the October 7 attack. So what are the likely scenarios, the worst and possibly the lesser serious scenarios in the next 24 to 48 hours?
Well, I'm convinced the Iranians are going to retaliate. Firstly, I don't see any possibility of both sides accepting an off-ramp. So if the Iranians are going to retaliate, they know that the attack in April failed because it was too limited and it was staged incorrectly in the sense that it gave the Israelis and the Americans effective time to defend against it, which means that their attack this time will be really mass attack. Using a multi-axis approach from multiple directions. So not only the Iranians, but also Hezbollah, as well as Hamas, as well as the Iranian-sponsored militias in Iraq and Syria, all attacking simultaneously, with basically the goal being to get the missiles and rockets time on target occurring simultaneously to overwhelm the Israeli and American air defenses. And I think that's the most likely scenario you'll see. Other scenarios you could see include asymmetric responses such as terrorism or some sort of indirect attack to threaten Israel or Israeli interests, not only in the Middle Eastern region, but also beyond the region.
What can you tell us of the latest with Yahya Sinwar, the last of the Hamas leadership on Israel's hit list?
Sinwar is the leader of Hamas. I believe he's stationed in a luxury villa in Qatar. My guess is that he will be in hiding because if they can get Haniyeh in Tehran, they can get Sinwar in Qatar. So I think that he'll either be moving around. He certainly won't be in his luxury villa. I think that the Israelis would like to get him. Clearly, their strategy is to go after the leadership of the adversaries they face to undermine the effectiveness of the fighting force of those organisations.
And what are we seeing with other countries, including Russia?
This morning, there was a flight from Russia down to Tehran by an airline that is normally used to supply arms and munitions. Now, it was a single aircraft, so it does suggest that there wasn't a large supply of munitions, but it could be advanced military equipment on that aircraft. We simply don't know what type of equipment it could be, but that was very clearly significant. And I would fully expect Putin to be supporting Iran in any conflict with Israel. So that's likely to be the case with Russia and Iran. I don't see any other countries really supporting Iran at this point, but we'll see how the next few days unfold.
And Dr Malcolm Davis, how is Australia impacted on this? Is there more pressure, do you think, for us to make a tangible commitment to the Red Sea? And how could it potentially impact us regarding commodities, fuel, air travel and more?
Well, in terms of the Red Sea, we've just taken over the command of the Red Sea operation. We've dispatched additional personnel. But we haven't dispatched a warship. And I think that really the government does need to think about that, the optics of that we essentially are in command of a multinational naval operation, but we don't have a warship on station. I would suggest that the government review its decision not to send a warship on that regard. In terms of the effect of a growing Middle East conflict that spirals out of control in the next few days, I would fully expect to see the price of oil leap up, particularly if attacks are made on oil facilities in the region. And that could affect everything from higher interest rates to inflation. Commodities obviously are going to become more expensive. So all of that has an effect on our economic growth. It potentially increases the risk of a recession. And of course, in Australia, we're heading towards an election, so that's not good news for the Australian people, but it's also not good news for the current government.
We've run out of time, but just quickly, Israel says it will send ceasefire negotiations to Cairo this weekend. It doesn't seem to be any firm agreement between Hamas and Israel prior to the deaths of the leaders this week. So what are the chances now?
Zero. Essentially, with both sides preparing for war. I think that Middle East negotiations are a sideline now until this latest war phase is done. And that could take weeks, if not longer. So I'm not positive about ceasefire negotiations at all.
Dr. Malcolm Davis, thank you so much as always for your time and expertise.
Thank you.